Book of Heaven, Volume 7. 6th to the 28th of November 1906. Page 48 to 54. November 6, 1906. The faith and the hope of the soul who lives in the divine will. I was praying according to my usual way, that whatever I do it as if I were doing it with our Lord and with His own intentions. So, I was reciting the Creed, and without realizing it myself, I was saying that I intended to have the faith of Jesus Christ to repair for so many unbeliefs, and to impetrate the gift of faith for all. At that moment, He moved in my interior, and told me, "You are wrong, I had neither faith nor hope, nor could I have them, because I was God Himself, I was only love." On hearing love, I liked so much being able to be only love that, not paying attention, I spoke some more nonsense, which was, "My Lord, I too would like to be like you, all love, and nothing else." And He added, "This is my goal, and this is why I often speak to you about perfect resignation, because by living in my will, the soul acquires the most heroic love, and reaches the point of loving me with my own love. She becomes all love, and becoming all love, she is in continuous contact with me. So, she is with me, in me, and for me she does everything I want. Nor does she move or desire anything but my will, in which all the love of the Eternal One is enclosed, and in which she herself remains enclosed." By living in this way, the soul almost comes to the point of dissolving faith and hope, because as she comes to live of divine will, the soul no longer feels in contact with faith and hope. Since she lives of the will of God, what does she have to believe if she has found it and made of it her food? And what does she have to hope for, if she already possesses it by living, not outside of God, but in God? Therefore, true and perfect resignation is the mark of sure predestination, and the sure possession that the soul has of God. Have you understood? Think it over carefully. I remained as though enchanted, and I said to myself, "Really, one can reach this?" And I almost doubted, saying, maybe He wanted to tempt me to see what I would do, to give me the field to speak more nonsense, and to show me where my pride reaches. However, it is good to speak some nonsense. At least one pushes Him to say something, and receives the good of hearing His voice, which restores one from death to life, and I kept thinking of what other nonsense I could say. At that moment, He moved again and added, "It is you who want to tempt me, not I you. And besides, stop doubting about my truths." And He kept silent. I felt confused, and I kept thinking of what He had told me, but who can say everything? These are things that cannot be expressed. November 9, 1906. Effects of meditating continuously on the Passion. Finding myself in my usual state, I was thinking about the Passion of our Lord. And while I was doing this, He came and told me, "My daughter, one who meditates continuously on my Passion and feels sorrow for it and compassion for me, pleases me so much that I feel as though comforted for all that I suffered in the course of my Passion, and by always meditating on it, the soul arrives at preparing a continuous food. In this food there are many different spices and flavors, which form different effects. So, if in the course of my Passion they gave me ropes and chains to tie me, the soul releases me and gives me freedom. They despised me, spat on me, and dishonored me. She appreciates me, cleans me of that spittle, and honors me. They stripped me and scourged me. She heals me and clothes me. They crowned me with thorns, mocking me as king, embittered my mouth with bile, and crucified me, while the soul, meditating on all my pains, crowns me with glory and honors me as her king, fills my mouth with sweetness, giving me the most delicious food, which is the memory of my own works, and unnailing me from the cross, she makes me rise again in her heart. And every time she does so, I give her a new life of grace as recompense. She is my food, and I become her continuous food. So, the thing that pleases me the most is meditating continuously on my Passion. November 12, 1906. The soul gives Jesus a dwelling in time, and He gives it to the soul in eternity. Continuing in my usual state, I was saying to blessed Jesus, "Oh, how I wish to love you, to be loved more by you." And He, in my interior, told me, I love you so much that I never leave you, and I dwell in you continuously. And I thank you for your benignity in dwelling in me, but I am not so content. I would be more content and would feel safer if I could dwell in you. And he, ah, my daughter, in time you give a dwelling to me, and in eternity I will give it to you. And be well content and sure that the one who dwells in you has the power to maintain your dwelling fortified and free of any danger. November 14, 1906. The cross expands the boundaries of the kingdom of heaven. Oh, how I struggled and suffered because of his privation. Then, after a long time, he made himself seen, just in passing, and told me, "My daughter, if perfect resignation is the certain and sure sign of predestination, the cross expands the boundaries of the kingdom of heaven." And he disappeared like a flash. November 16, 1906. Difference between the offenses of the religious and those of the secular. As I was in my usual state, I saw the many offenses committed by priests and by religious people, and the great sorrow that blessed Jesus felt because of them. Almost surprised, I said, "My sweet life, it is true that religious people offend you, but it seems to me that the secular offend you more. Yet, you show greater sorrow for the first than for the second. It seems you are all eyes to look at all that the first are doing, and you seem not to look at what the second do." And he, "Ah, my daughter, you cannot comprehend the difference that exists between the offenses of the religious and those of the secular. This is why you are surprised. The religious have declared that they belong to me, love me and serve me, and I have entrusted the treasures of my grace to them, and the treasures of the sacraments to others, who are the priests. Now, while pretending on the outside that they belong to me, in their interior, if they need, they are far away from me. They show that they love me and serve me, but they offend me, and they use holy things to serve their own passions. This is why I am all eyes, so as not to let them spoil my gifts and my graces, but in spite of my cares, they reach the point of wreaking havoc with those very things with which, on the outside, they seem to be glorifying me. This offense is so grave, that if you could comprehend it, you would die of heartbreak. On the other hand, the secular declare that they do not belong to me, that they do not know me, and that they do not want to serve me, and because of this, first of all, they are free of the spirit of hypocrisy, which is the thing that displeases me the most. Therefore, since they have declared themselves, I have not been able to entrust my gifts to them. Even though grace excites them, it fights them, it has not given itself because they do not want it. It happens as to a king who, having waged battle to free the peoples from the slavery in which they are kept by other kings, managed, by force of blood, to free some of those peoples. Then he placed them under his dominion, providing everything for them, and if necessary, letting them live in his own residence. Now, who would displease him more if they offended him? The peoples which have remained far away from him, and which he yet wanted to free, or the ones that live with him? November 18, 1906. The works without interior spirit and upright intention bloat the soul. As I was in my usual state, I saw only a shadow of blessed Jesus, and he told me only, "My daughter, if a food could be separated from its substance and someone ate it, it would be of no use, or rather, it would serve to bloat his stomach." Such are the works without interior spirit and without upright intention. Being emptied of divine substance, they are of no use, and serve only to bloat the person. Therefore he receives more harm than good. November 20, 1906. Obedience communicates divine strength to the soul. My poor state continues, full of bitterness because of the almost continuous privations that I suffer, but also of peace. I saw him just flashing by, telling me, "My daughter, obedience is an unshakable wall, and such it renders the soul." Not only this, but in order to be unshakable, it is necessary for one to be strong and robust, and obedience communicates divine strength, in such a way that, in the face of the divine strength it possesses, all things are weak. So much so, that while obedience can move anything, nothing can move it. And he vanished away. November 28, 1906. The good of operating together with Jesus. Continuing in my poor state, I just barely saw blessed Jesus, who seemed to transform all of himself into me, in such a way that if I breathed, I could feel his breathing in mine. If I moved one arm, I could feel him move his arm within mine, and so with all the rest. While he was doing this, he told me, "My beloved daughter, see in what a close union I am with you. This is how I want you to be, completely united and clasped to me. And do not think that you must do this only when you suffer or pray, but rather, always, always. If you move, if you breathe, if you work, if you eat, if you sleep. Everything, everything. As if you were doing it in my humanity. And as if your working came from me, in such a way that you should be nothing but the cortex, and once the cortex of your work is broken, one should find the fruit of the divine work. And this you must do for the good of the whole of humanity, in such a way that my humanity must be present, as though alive in the midst of people. In fact, as you do everything, even the most indifferent actions, with this intention of receiving life from me, your action acquires the merit of my humanity, because since I was man and God, in my breathing I contained the breathing of all. The movements, the actions, the thoughts. I contained everything within myself. Therefore I sanctified them, I divinized them, I repaired them. So, by doing everything in the act of receiving all of your working from me, you too will come to embrace and contain all creatures within you, and your working will diffuse for the good of all. Therefore, even if the others will give me nothing, I will take everything from you. It seems I am speaking a lot of nonsense. These are intimate things, and I am unable to say them well. I would like to write them as I have them in my mind, but I cannot. It seems that I take one drop of light, and 100 more escape me. It would have been better had I kept silent, but, after all, may everything be for the glory of God.